Maple fusion, sounds of our history. How has music helped shape the past of Lethbridge streets? Quirky and bold, with a weekend and glen. Pull up the chair, let the tale begin.
From drum circles in grade school to Tina Turner impressions that stole the show, from the oil rigs to mentorship programs changing young lives, today's guest has worn many hats and played many stages. Born in Wenatchee, Washington, raised between Texas, the Piikani Nation, and southern Alberta, Will Big Bull's journey blends music, hard work, and a deep commitment to community. He's a storyteller, a mentor, and now he's the manager of engagement at the Allied Arts Council here in Lethbridge. Today, we're going to explore how all these threads come together in his remarkable life. Pull up a chair. You don't want to miss this one. Hi, I'm Shelley Kay, and this is Maple Fusion, Sounds of Our History. And today, I'm joined with
Willie Big Bull. Okay, everybody.
Maple Mixers. Before we dive deep, let's have a little fun. Do some Maple Mixers and get to know each other. Well, you know what, Will? We're going to play a couple of games first and hopefully have a little bit of fun.
I love it.
Tap your buzzer if you think you can touch your toes. Oh, so you just think you can, so no answer? Just...
Oh, I can touch my toes.
Oh, all right.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Okay, there we go. I'll let you go ahead.
That's one thing I'm very proud of, that I've always been able to do that.
Okay.
It's something I learned how to do when I was young, and it's an indicator that I'm not too far gone.
That's a good thing.
Okay, tap your buzzer if you secretly love karaoke.
Oh, I can't tap my buzzer. Oh, you do.
I sure do.
I enjoy watching people do it. I prefer live, I think.
Oh yeah, nothing beats live.
Nothing beats live. There you go. Okay.
Which would you choose, Shelley? Oh, let me let you know right now, my eyes are terrible.
Oh, okay.
Before we go too far. And I need some new glasses, and I know I got a whole story with these ones. The ability to breathe underwater, or the ability to jump 20 feet into the air.
Oh, it would have to, hands down, it would have to be under the water.
Oh, yeah.
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 There we go.
That's awesome.
So here's our next game called, which one of these is not like the other?
Oh, okay. I don't know where this guy fits into everything here.
Okay.
I know it makes a snapping sound.
Yeah.
If I wanted to.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, this one's not like the rest of them, but I could be wrong. I don't know what to do here, Shelley.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I'm stumped on this.
Are you stumped?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, as a musician, have you ever played one of these?
I've tinkered around with something like that before, yeah.
Okay, so this is an Appalachian banjo. Often people will say this is it because it's a stringed instrument, but interesting, this is for all those family members and especially parents of kids that are learning to play fiddle, and you put this on your strings and then it mutes your strings. So these two actually...
use that when I play guitar.
Yeah, there you go. So this is a cabasa, and this is a small one, like you would normally get a bigger one in an orchestra.
Okay.
This one was yours, and it's C or E. Interesting. So which one of these is not like the other?
This fellow over here?
Absolutely. Yeah, because these are both the same tone.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
so
what
even though
this
it's
is.
musical, it's not like the others.
No, it is certainly
It doesn't
not.
mix with anything. Woo-hoo! Well, look at that, eh? Woo-hoo! So there's our game.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Now we're going to go between the lines, where the music, the memories, and the meaning of the story unfolds. Well, that's interesting. Do I call you Will or Willie?
Well, I've got a few monikers that I go by, actually. The most common one that anyone refers to me as is Will. And that's my friends and family and people just get to know me. But performing, just to be able to make a distinction between the two, I feel like it was necessary. Up there on the stage and then out there in the spotlight, for whatever reasons, I'm usually Mr. Willie Big Bull.
Ah,
so yeah, it's fun. I feel like Superman.
Of course, of course. Well, that is cool. So can you share a little bit about yourself, your early years, and where you grew up and what you were like as a child?
Well, I've always had a love for music. I grew up in Brockett, Alberta, which is on the Beacony Nation. And I was born in a place called Wenatchee, Washington, which is in the Okanagan Valley. I grew up since I was 3 years old on the reservation, the Beacony Nation. I've always been a performer since I was a kid. Anytime there was a crowd there and they were looking for somebody to make them laugh or just have a good time, I was all too willing to be that person. It got me a lot of praise and attention and a lot of trips to the office. And it got me some negative attention from time to time too. But I was a pretty good little student too, and I did my work, and I had a wonderful upbringing where I grew up. I got to know all of my family back home in Beacony. I have a very large family back there, and I have a great big family down in Washington as well. And through the years, I've bounced back and forth between Canada and the United States quite a bit. I did spend a lot of time on the road, and it did instill a lot of storytelling in me. And I had a lot of great experiences as a kid traveling around with my family. I've got 4 brothers and sisters. And the 7 of us with my mom and dad, we'd be in the back of our Suburban all over southern Alberta.
Oh, I can see it now.
Oh, yeah. My dad always had the best tunes on the radio.
And it was an old radio station, wasn't it?
Best radio station we could get out there would be 66 CFR.
Ah.
Had all of my favorite tunes on it, and I was always tuning in because I'd be underneath some old Chevys, swapping out engines and stuff with my brother Nate.
And your dad was a Chevy man?
Oh yeah, he's the Chevy man back home. He's a very resourceful human being and taught me how to be so as well.
And he was musical too, wasn't he?
Very much, and has always had a huge impact on me as a musician and my musical taste and my musical knowledge. And I've always been very fond of his voice, and it was one of the first voices I heard as a kid that was not a radio. It was a real live person singing in front of me, and I thought, like, well, my dad can do it, like, you know.
So do you remember the first time that you ever performed?
Some of the very first performing I did was when I was a real rugrat of a kid, with my brothers and sisters at, you know, birthday parties and such, with the old camcorders in the America's Funniest Home Video style.
Oh, right.
So we were goofing around, but the first time I ever felt like I was a part of a group and doing a full-on performance was when I was probably between 9, 10 years old, and I joined a drum group back home on my reserve called the Singing Eagles.
Whoa.
And we were a kids drum group that was imitating a really polished elder youth drum group, and it caught on throughout the community, and then I think we got a little bit of media love somewhere along the way. So before long, we were getting asked to come and perform at universities, and we traveled all the way up to Alberta to perform at the U of A, and we spent some time in a bus, and you know, we get to the show and kind of have the experience of having the nerves and the anxiety of wanting to get out there and perform. And then the first time of really feeling that resonate within me of when we'd be doing our job and everybody would be catching that vibe with us too. And it's been my drug I've been chasing ever since.
So you'd get that vibe with the group, and then you'd go kick it on the bus. You had quite the tour experience.
And they were all my buddies and my family, so you know, that's kind of still the way it is to this very day too.
That is okay, but let's move forward a couple of years in school, because I heard this story and then you were sharing a little bit about it. It had something to do with Elvis and Tina Turner. Okay, you got it.
Oh, a little birdie, huh?
Yeah, just a little birdie put that in my ear.
Guilty as charged, Shelley. I was a impersonator, if you will. When I was a teenager, there was some air band contests back home. My very first time ever getting involved in it was performing as John Fogerty for a CCR lip singing contest back home on my reserve. I think that kind of set me on my track to say, like, that was fun, and if that chance comes along again. And only maybe within a year later, I had shifted from that school to Fort Macleod, and I was going to the wonderful F.P. Walsh in Fort Macleod, and there was an air band contest once again. And to shorten this story up for you, I lost the first year as Elvis to an outstanding ensemble of kids. And me and my buddies were kind of a ragtag group, and I was doing the Jailhouse Rock, and I had on my dad's leather jacket and my mom's leather jeans. And, I couldn't shake my hips hard enough, Shelley.
Oh, Will!
So my dad suggests that I really got to take it to the next level the next year. So once again, that same group, they're doing a whole nother ensemble, and I came out as full Tina Turner.
Whoa, I can see it now.
My mama's heels. I got up there, I did Proud Mary with all my buddies once again, and we killed it, and we won, and pizza party. I don't remember what else came along with it, but that pizza was delicious, and we had a good time. That actually turned into a little side gig where I made a little supplemental income through high school. I performed here at City Hall for Indigenous Peoples Day. Packed house, and I gave it my best, and I had a great time doing it too.
Awesome.
You know. And then I outgrew the heels, unfortunately, and yeah, I hit a growth spurt, and I had to leave Tina behind eventually.
Oh, that's a shame. The shoes and the leather pants, they were done.
Don't get me wrong, I was well into my 20s, and folks back home were calling me up and saying, "Can you still do Tina?" I said, "Sorry, there's not enough money in the world."
Oh my!
Yeah, but talk to me next week. I just got paid.
So getting paid and work. Yeah, it seems you've had a very interesting career of work as well.
Oh yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Right out of high school, I got into a multimedia production program in formerly LCC, now Lethbridge Polytechnic. And then I bounced over to Medicine Hat for a while. And at the time, I was more involved with theater. I took some acting classes there, and I wanted to learn how to interact with the camera. And I think I got in the hang of things since then a little bit.
Well, let's ask our cameraman. How's he doing, Addison?
Beautiful.
Thanks,
Okay.
Addison.
Okay.
I eventually dropped out because I started being a poor student. And the oil patch was calling me eventually. I did some stints in some not so glamorous lines of work at places like Lakeside Packers, if anybody knows where that is.
Brooks, right?
Yeah. Beautiful Brooks, Alberta. And that led me down the Trans-Canada to Medicine Hat, where I had really profound experiences there. When I went to college there, I took an acting class, and a wonderful teacher there, I wish I could remember her name. She really helped me come out of my shell and, you know, be able to have the courage to perform in front of the rest of the class. And I wrote some monologues and got some really good feedback from that. And some of that stuff still resonates with me to this very day. And before long, I moved back home to Lethbridge area, and now I've been living here for 10 years with my wife and kids, and I love this city and this community. But I spent quite a bit of time up north because I got into that oil money.
And that's pretty darn good money, isn't it?
It's too good of money,
Yes.
honestly. It offers far too much of a future, and I will say that anybody with, you know, some determination and a strong back, and they want to go and make a living, that's the place to go and do it in Alberta. Yeah, if they just want to get out there and work and make some money. And I have nothing but respect for folks that go and do that. It's a hard way to make a living, but it's a good way too.
Awesome. And you did a lot of various types of jobs up there as well.
Yeah.
And can you share a couple? There's a couple of very interesting named ones. And if people don't know oil and gas, that maybe you can just kind of share with us about that.
I've been a roughneck and a pressure tester. And I've been an aerial platform engineer, which is also a fancy way of calling someone a scaffolder.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I've been a framer and a form fitter, and I've been a jug hound.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
And so up there, you got your first guitar, I think you'd said at 22, and you took it with you.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, it always served a purpose for me, whether it was just passing time, or I knew that if I set my mind to it long enough and nobody could hear me, that I could figure out some tunes. And in camp up there too, I spent so much time up in the oil sands and up in Fort McMurray, and I was over in Cold Lake for a long time, that area. I've been out to Fort Nelson and Rainbow Lake and Fairview and Weyburn. And
ooh, all the hot spots. Whoa.
I always had my guitar in tote, and I would usually be in a hotel room by myself, and I eventually would find a little crowd somewhere in the form of an open mic, or I would go and join the camp jam, and they'd be looking for some of us folks to be able to entertain them. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth at first, of just trying to get up on the spot and sing songs for folks and see if I could do it and get a little round of applause. And I always managed to get by and get asked to come back again.
I think a little more than get by. And so one where you don't quite get the same accolades, you also mentioned that you had more of a somber type of experience in singing, and that was at funerals.
Yeah, which was an all too common occurrence back home, unfortunately. And, you know, different circumstances, and there would be times where I would find myself being called upon for my services. Once I finally had enough of a repertoire put together, and I had the chords figured out, and I started learning how to play music, I started entertaining folks back home at parties, and I got good at making some of the aunties cry with my renditions. And they started encouraging me to sing more. You know, it really was a profound experience for me to learn how to play music under those circumstances for that crowd, because nobody's giving you a round of applause.
No.
And you know you're doing your job by hearing other people unloading their emotions sometimes, which can be a tough thing, you know. And there would be times where, you know, I'd crack up, and, you know, I'd be a mess sometimes trying to keep it together and get through the thing. And I always knew that my family and my friends were there for me to do what I was there to do. My family, you know.
And you would have been there for them too.
That's what I was trying to do, you
right.
know. And watching people go through that and being a part of it in my way, it was a profound experience for me for a lot of reasons. To really connect with people in a time like that, it's not the easiest thing to do. Right. And there's a lot of people that have a hard time processing in those times. So my job in that time was to sing them all sad songs and to help everybody through a really difficult time. And
you mentioned something we were talking earlier. If I can just remind you and read what you had said to me, and then if you could share a little bit with
now
us.
You're quoting me, Shelley.
Oh, I know. Well, it was profound. It really was. You mentioned, and you said, music transcends all, and music allows you to have a moment that isn't offered up anywhere else. You forget race, you forget everything else happening in the world, and that to me is very profound.
I grew up in the 80s, and music went through some changes, and a lot of it was wild, and it didn't connect and resonate with me until I spent some time searching for the stuff on my own that really did, you know, the stuff that really did speak to my soul. Me and Bob Dylan got the same birthday.
No.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to know my birthday, go find Bob Dylan's birthday.
There we go.
I've been to Duluth, Minnesota, area where he grew up, and it's in his songs when you listen to it. You go out there in the wintertime, which me and my brother did once in the middle of February. You know, it's a lot like Alberta, and there's something about growing up out here that you connect with this area, and you connect with the people who grew up in this area as well, because like we all go through the same seasons, and we all deal with this daylight savings time fiasco.
Oh, yes.
And we share a community together that oftentimes I do feel like doesn't have anything to do with what side of the fence we're born on, or, you know, how big of a plate we all eat off of. And I do think that music facilitates a space for people to just not be caught up in their life. If I can offer something musically, that would be a good place to start. And I've played in crowds of 2 people and 2,000. It's always something that I put my heart and soul into. And I think people connect with that in a lot of ways. When they give into it, I can tell. And I could tell when all the conversations quiet down and fade and the pool game stops. And
You know you've touched them.
I got them locked in. And that's where I feel like we're all in a place that's really hard to get to on a daily basis.
Sugar and facts. And now it's time for a little sugar and facts trivia treat to keep your brain dancing. We've got a fun piece of trivia for you today, and it is the term jughound. And what exactly is that? Is that someone who plays a jug in a wash tub and washboard band? Don't think so. But the term jughound comes from the old school oil field slang. Yes, sirree, up in Fort McMurray, that's what you would have been called if you were the person who carries and sets up seismic jugs, the geophones that help map underground resources. It's tough, muddy work, and yes, it means our guest, Will Big Bull's musical journey once ran through Fort McMurray and the oil patch. And no, he wasn't in a jug and a washboard band. So, Will, you talked about cruising down for this. Can you share the story about your motorcycle accident? And I won't give any more away than that, but could you just share that with us?
First things first, I walked away unscathed.
Oh, that's...
Which is a big part of the story for me.
Okay.
I was 27 years old, so it was about 16 years ago. And I was riding my motorbike and didn't check my tires in a while, just being a bonehead. I always had this, you know, attachment to Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and all these 27 Forever guys. I always, for some reason, had this idea when I was younger that there's a chance I'd be a part of that crowd. And a buddy of mine back home and we used to have those kind of talks about just like, we'd always say that a part of it was because they weren't here to screw it up now. You know, they didn't live long enough to make a mess out of what the legacy they had built. And sure enough, I was doing way over the speed limit. My back tire blew out, and I darn near got run over by a big old semi, and I was flying side to side out of control. And I remembered my dad told me that from the time I was a kid, I rode dirt bikes. I was told from the time I was a kid that if you ever are out of control, don't hit the brakes. That whatever it is, do not slam on your brakes. Yeah, use your knees and you hug that gas tank as tight as you can and you try to ride it out. And if you're on a highway and you're out of control, you're better off in the ditch than laid out across the road for everybody to squash you like a gopher. I managed to keep it upright and I got it over to the wrong side of the road, but I was on the shoulder. I stopped and I kind of caught myself and realized what had happened, and I just had one of the moments, you know, the whole life flashes before your eyes, all 27 years of it, which I had this realization that, as much as I idolized those folks that had left that legacy, I didn't feel like I had much of anything that people would remember me by other than, you know, a tragic story to my end. And I had never been on a stage and performed for folks outside of maybe playing some of those funerals. It just was one of those times where I really analyzed my life after that. And that was one of those real pivotal moments in my life where it changed trajectory from that moment on. I can honestly say I do not believe I would be here if it wasn't for that occurrence. And of all things, it was on my dad's birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, I called him up on my phone after I caught myself, and I told him what had happened. People have stories about their faith and something that they might refer to as God. And I infuse a lot of that kind of conversation in my music very purposefully, because I know that it's one of those things that we're just not comfortable talking about. And it's been unwavering, my faith. And I believe in something that we refer to as spatapio. And there's not a word to say necessarily God. And my dad, he told me right then and there that I had angels watching over me. And I believe that. But it was a real happening. And I actually got a token out of it in the end. I was standing there on the side of the road, and then I looked down, and you know, there's a gravel road out there, and out in the middle of that, in that highway, there was this shiny little black rock sitting on the shoulder, and I picked it up and I felt it, and it's just as smooth as it was back then, Shelley.
Wow.
And it's brought me a lot of fortune, and I've kept it ever since. And I'm not one to get too caught up in tokens and such like that, but I'll tell you that it's one of those things that over time it's grown on me, and I've had it in my hands when my children were born, and I've had it in a lot of different occasions in my life. And the one thing I could say is that there's a lot of attachments to it, especially when I think about that occurrence and where I've been led to since then. So that's my little keepsake of it, you know?
Well, that is awesome. And it's interesting that you mentioned, too, you had it when your children were born. So if I can kind of segue into that, you have 3 children, the youngest of which I saw a couple of weeks ago up on a stool. It was the most amazing thing, singing her little heart out, having to sit on a stool. Could you share a bit about your family and your family now, your wife and your 3 children, and how music is a part of your family at this point and with your children too?
My family is the reason why I do anything, and it's my driving force in my life, and it's it has saved me, and it's made me grow as a human being. And I commend anyone who's raised a family, because it's the most challenging thing you'll ever do, as you know, with that beautiful Chelsea of yours. And kids, they can bring out the best and worst in you, you know.
Absolutely.
And we learn from them so much. My children are all very musical. I always say, you know, there's music that I've listened to all my life that has had a never-ending loop in my mind. I always loved the classic stuff, and anywhere you go, you could find a classic music station of some type. So I've always been humming along to that kind of music, and now that's seeped into my children too, you know. And these songs, when you become a parent, they take on new meaning all of a sudden. There's so much...
They do, don't they?
There's so much context there that I never felt before, you know, in a lot of things, not just music, but a lot of things artistically and the way people express themselves. And I feel like I'm kind of resonating on that kind of a frequency, and I'm receiving what they're sending out there. And I want to try to do the same thing when people are connecting with what I do. I feel like I'm teaching my children the possibility of that, you know, and I'm hoping that I'm planted some kind of a seed that I might not even see that garden grow someday, but I'm so thankful that it will exist and that others will get to bask in its glory, you know.
And so is that what started you on the path of, and I'd love to hear about your music mentorship program.
Yeah, that absolutely ties into it. I've just spent years and years around a lot of circles of people in need of that kind of connection, whether they be children, underprivileged or otherwise, and not just from my First Nations community, but anywhere where there's, a young group of kids that are inclined to perform and they want to write or they want to sing a song. I spent some time working with people in recovery, and I know that one thing that was absent in their life was love, and that goes back to their childhood. And me getting to just sit there and sing them a song, sometimes they would say they feel like a child again.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a beautiful thing, a gift
It
to give
is.
to somebody. So I felt like if I could reach someone in need of that connection before they get to a point where the difficulties just become insurmountable, that's something that I should do if I can. And I was able to by the help of the Blackfoot Confederacy, and I've been in my third year of being able to do that. And there's a lot of ways that we try to promote and advance the work of our Indigenous youth. And I've watched some of these folks grow into bands and lead singers, and it's really, really something else. And I couldn't be more proud to be a part of that circle.
So this music mentorship program, when you were mentioning it, and it just sounds like it has so many opportunities for youth and for helping people. Again, that music transcends so many different things. And the opportunity for performers, Indigenous performers in Lethbridge, what opportunities do you have?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity now for the past 4 years to be the curator for the original 16 stage that is sponsored by the Blackfoot Confederacy. It's a real culmination for some of these members of the music mentorship program, and it's evolved now from just once where I rented out the University of Lethbridge Theatre, and we had a gathering and we put on a show for the parents at the end there, and that went over so well that I thought like these guys would be ready to start getting up on that stage, and they've been doing it every year and they've been killing it. It's a humbling experience, to be honest, and I'm very proud to be a member of the folks that get to say that we are the Blackfoot Confederacy here in this area, in this territory, because we have outstanding representation, I feel.
That is wonderful, and you do. And so looking at all of your background, I think that culminates to my next question is, I believe your title that is fairly new, maybe 3 months, Manager of Engagement with the Allied Arts Council.
Yeah, it's going wonderful. I've been telling people in my circle that I feel like I've been slowly working my way towards being in this position for a long, long time, unknowingly. But the team there has entrusted me to be their manager of engagement and to get out there and talk to folks in the arts community. It's how you and I met in the first place.
Right.
All of your wonderful work you've done here in Sikohkatok, and I love being able to represent it as much as possible and help enhance the fabric of this artistic culture that we have here, and really make something that at the end of the day I'm very proud to be a part of, because my work for years and years and years was destroying the earth and in oil and gas exploration, and doing that kind of work for so long, it takes a toll on you mentally and physically and spiritually and emotionally, and I feel like my job is restoring that now in every kind of engagement that I get to do, including this one. So thank you so much for offering me to be a part of your circle.
Oh my gosh, well, I'm honored. I really am. It's meeting you, you exude this, there's an energy that comes from you, and it's just, and I use this word, but I think you've had other people say this to you too. It's magnetizing. It really is. There's something about you that you draw people in such a kind way. And, you know, if we go back to what you said before, I think the connection of music in all of our lives is so important, and it just brings us into a whole family of communication. It doesn't matter who we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the worst trait to have if you're a criminal because you're called a heat score. And everybody's going to be paying attention to you when you don't want them to. But from the time that I was a child, it seems like I've always been kind of thrust into the spotlight, and I've been more than willing to take on the responsibility of it, come what may. But there's a reckoning that I feel like that is happening for me, and I'm having my dues now, and I couldn't be happier with the way things are going for me. So,
well, I would like to thank you so kindly. It's just it's been so fun.
Well, we got the gag reel to prove it.
There we go. Bringing it in. Let's switch gears and see what our guest brought in to share about their part of history. This section of Bringing It In, you've got a couple of things on the table here. Which would you like to start with?
This was something I made for my mama. I was working up in the middle of nowhere as a jug hound for a seismic company. And this is a picture that I had made for her mom for Mother's Day. And that's me holding on to about 60 pounds worth of gear. And on a daily basis, we would trudge through the terrain and lay out and pick up all those cables and geophones. And they called us jug hounds because the little geophones that we'd stomp into the ground back in the old days when they first started doing that were about the size of a jug. They just had a big old geophone that they would stomp down there. And just like a hound dog afterwards, you go and seek them out and pick them all up. So I spent a few seasons as a jug hound, and I met some interesting characters doing that job, let me tell you. But I also climbed some of the highest mountains in Waterton Mountain Range too.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of you, Will. Let's see. How does that look? There you go. And all of your cables, that is fascinating. Okay, that is fascinating. Now, you've got something else that you said you brought for us. Is it historic or?
Yeah, this is something that I've kept because it was something I found along the way through my travels. It's very near and dear to me. And I found that through the years, every time I show it to people, I get such a mixed variety of responses, but it's something that I just wanted to share with you today. This is my grandfather's driver's license for his 21st birth date, and this was 1977. He was born in 1935, and anybody who wants to zoom in on that can see that that's where it all started for the Willie boy.
And so, you are the most serious person in the world, not.
It's great for talking to some folks, not bouncers and bars and not liquor stores.
You tried that?
And police officers don't think it's all that funny.
They don't think it's very funny either? Oh my gosh.
But I think I look just like my granddaddy. So.
There you go. There you go. Well, you did. You were Elvis, and you don't have one with Tina on it.
No, that one I don't talk about.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, again, we want to thank you so much. This has been so fun being here today with Willie Big Bull in Lethbridge, and we thank you so much. Mabel Fusion, Sounds of Our History. What a great time we've had. What a story. From ballads on Radio 66, CFR of Yesterday Radio, and on to CKUA Today, to guiding young musicians towards their first stage performance, including his own children. Will Big Bull's story is one of resilience, creativity, and heart. His path, it reminds us that music is more than notes. It's a bridge between people, a safe place, and a spark of change. It allows us to have a moment that isn't offered up anywhere else. Will, thank you for sharing your journey with us and for continuing to give others the chance to find their voice.
Rainbow fusion, sounds of our history. How does music help shape the past of Lethbridge's streets?